The colony of Doran's Edge floated on the rim of the Orion Spiral, far from the safety of the inner council systems. It was a small world, rich in minerals but poor in defenses. For years, its people had lived in uneasy peace, trading with travelers and sending requests for protection that were always ignored. To the Council of Worlds, Doran's Edge was too far, too small, too unimportant. Then the storm came. It was not a storm of rain or fire, but a storm of space itself. Gravity waves rippled through the system, tearing apart satellites and pulling stations from orbit. Strange dark clouds formed in the void, swallowing ships whole. The colonists had no choice but to send a desperate signal, an SOS coded on every frequency known to the galaxy. For weeks, no one answered. The Council received the call but marked it as low priority. Their fleets were busy patrolling richer sectors and protecting worlds with powerful allies. Small colonies like Doran's Edge were expected to fend for themselves. The Council delegates debated briefly, then moved on to other business. But the signal did not vanish. It traveled deeper, farther, carried across forgotten channels and ancient relay buoys until it touched something long thought lost. Deep in the black silence between stars, a machine woke. It was an old listening station, built in the early days of human expansion. For centuries it had drifted unseen. Powered by quiet reactors, its purpose forgotten by all but a few. When the SOS reached it, the station's core AI stirred from hibernation. Lines of code written by human hands long ago lit up again. Distress call detected. Origin Doran's Edge, priority human colonies. Response protocol, activate First Fleet. One by one, across hidden sectors of space, dormant beacons flared to life. In forgotten shipyards, giant warships stirred. They were unlike the polished cruisers of the Council. Their hulls were dark, layered with heavy armor. Their shapes were brutal, efficient, designed for survival in wars the galaxy no longer remembered. For centuries they had slept, preserved in silence, waiting for a signal only humans could send. And now it had come. On Doran's Edge, hope was fading. The colony's governor, Mira Talon, stood in the broken command center watching the last power reserves drain. "No ships are coming," she whispered. Around her, engineers struggled to keep the shield domes alive. Families crowded the shelters, their faces pale with fear. "Governor," her aide said quietly, "we've sent the SOS 100 times. If the Council cared, they would have come already." Mira's jaw tightened. "We will not stop sending it. Someone must hear us. Someone has to." That night, when the dark storm reached the outer orbitals, the colonists braced for the end. Then the sky tore open. At first they thought it was lightning. A streak of white cut across the heavens, followed by a deep vibration that shook the ground. Then another. Then dozens more. The colonists ran into the open, staring upward. High above the planet, the stars themselves seemed to vanish, blotted out by shapes too massive to comprehend. Ships. Hundreds of them. They slid out of fold space in complete silence, their black hulls absorbing light. Each ship was sharp-edged, towering, older than anything the galaxy currently flew. Some were the size of cities, bristling with strange towers and folded wings. Others were lean and fast, their engines glowing with a deep crimson burn. Governor Mira's aide fell to his knees. What are those?" The ships did not answer at once. They formed a vast wall in orbit, stretching from horizon to horizon. For a long, terrifying moment, the colony feared they had called down their doom. Then a voice came through every channel, clear and steady. "This is Admiral Keon Vey of Earth's First Fleet. We received your distress call. Assistance has arrived." The colonists froze. They had heard of humans, of course. A quiet, scattered species, known mostly for trading small goods and living on the edge of known space. But this was something else entirely. Earth's First Fleet? Mira repeated, stunned. Her aide whispered, "But Earth left the galaxy centuries ago. Their fleets were destroyed." "Weren't they?" The Admiral's voice returned. "Prepare your wounded. Secure your shelters. We will stabilize your orbit and repair your systems. Remain calm." And then the sky lit up with activity. The fleet moved like a single organism. Giant carriers unfolded long arms, releasing swarms of drones that darted toward the broken satellites. Cruiser-class vessels fired streams of energy into the storm, creating corridors of safety. Smaller ships descended into atmosphere, dropping supply pods and field engineers. To the colonists' astonishment, the human fleet did not bring weapons, it brought help. Mira watched from the command center as one of the dark ships lowered a shimmering lattice around the colony's orbital path. Instantly, the gravitational waves eased. The colony's torn orbit stabilized. Reports poured in. Food supplies, medical aid, repair modules for power plants. The humans seemed prepared for every need. One child, watching a pod land in the settlement square, asked his mother, "Are they angels?" The mother could only whisper back, I don't know." Far away, others were watching too. A small council scout ship had lingered near the system, curious about the SOS. When it detected the arrival of the human fleet, its captain nearly fainted. The sensors confirmed impossible readings. Energy signatures older than the Council's oldest archives. Weapons arrays that could split moons. Shielding that no current fleet could pierce. "This cannot be," the alien captain muttered. Humans do not have this power." But the readings were undeniable. The fleet in orbit was not a relic. It was active, awake, and terrifyingly alive. The scout ship fled at once, racing back to deliver its report. On Doran's edge, Governor Mira finally spoke with Admiral Vey. His image appeared on her comm screen. A man in dark uniform, eyes sharp but calm. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship looked ancient and vast, filled with silent officers who barely seemed to breathe. "Admiral," Mira said carefully, we thank you. Without you, our colony would have been lost. But why now? Where did you come from?" They regarded her for a long moment. His voice was quiet when he answered, "We never left. We were waiting. Earth promised to answer when her people cried for help. That promise has no expiration." Mira shivered. There was something in his tone, something that suggested this fleet was not just a force of ships but a force of history itself, awakened from slumber. "Will you stay?" she asked. Vey shook his head. "We will repair what is broken. Then we will move on. There are other signals, other cries. Earth's duty is endless." And with that, the transmission ended. That night, the colonists stood together under the stars. Above them, the Black Fleet remained, silent and watchful. The children pointed and whispered, the elders prayed, and the workers cried with relief. But in the Council of Worlds, panic spread like wildfire. Reports of Earth's deadliest fleet were arriving in every chamber. Some leaders dismissed it as myth. Others demanded immediate investigation. "Humans," one counselor hissed, "were never meant to have such power. If they truly command fleets like this, then the balance of the galaxy is broken." Another whispered, almost in fear, "What if they do not want power? What if they want something else?" No one had answers. On Doran's edge, the colonists did not care about politics or balance. They only knew one truth. When everyone else ignored them, when the galaxy left them to die, Earth came. The galaxy had long considered humans a quiet, almost irrelevant species. They traded, explored, and occasionally fought small skirmishes, but no one had seen them as a serious power. And yet the arrival of the first fleet at Doran's edge shattered that belief in an instant. In the Council of Worlds, panic spread faster than any virus. Delegates shouted over one another, pointing at holographic feeds of the human fleet in orbit of the tiny colony. They had never seen ships like those. Their weapons and designs were ancient, almost primitive in appearance, yet their presence radiated an authority and efficiency that no current technology could match. "This cannot be real," hissed Counselor Thalen, a reptilian diplomat from the Zolari constellation. His claws tapped furiously on the holographic table. "Humans vanished centuries ago. The first fleet was destroyed in the Outer Wars. We cannot have them here." "Then what do we do?" another delegate asked, his voice trembling. "Do we send forces to investigate? Or do we—" "No!" Thalen snapped. "We cannot provoke them. If those ships are what the sensors say, they are more than enough to destroy every fleet in this sector. We must observe quietly." Far away in a secure observation post, a team of council scouts had gathered, feeding the images of the human fleet into their instruments. Every calculation showed the same impossible readings. Energy fields beyond comprehension. Ships moving in formation as if thinking as one. Reaction times too fast for any known pilot or AI. "We're not ready for this," muttered Captain Fenar, a veteran of many conflicts. "This is not just a fleet. This is something else. Something alive." But while the council debated in panic, the colonists on Doran's edge were witnessing a different side of the humans. They were not here to fight. They were here to help. Repair crews moved across the orbital platforms like synchronized dancers. Broken power conduits were replaced almost instantly, shields stabilized, and damaged communication arrays restored. Pods carrying food, medicine, and clean water descended into the settlements below. Engineers worked alongside colonists, teaching them techniques no one had imagined. Governor Mira Talon could hardly believe her eyes. They aren't even using weapons," she whispered to her aide. "They're just fixing everything." Her aide shook his head. "I don't understand it. These ships, they were made for war, weren't they? But they're helping us. Why?" "They are humans," Mira replied softly. "This is what they do." Across the galaxy, the whispers began. Alien traders and explorers passing through the sector reported seeing the fleet. Rumors spread faster than the speed of light. The humans came from nowhere. Their fleet is thousands of years old but fully functional. They respond to distress signals alone without asking for reward. Most dismissed the stories as exaggeration, but some, those who had glimpsed the fleet firsthand, could not. On Doran's Edge, the colonists learned more about the humans. The engineers were patient and precise. They spoke little of themselves, giving only instructions. Every action suggested long experience, careful planning, and unshakable discipline. Mira followed one group to the colony's hydroponic fields. The crops had been failing under the stress of the storm. Within minutes, the humans had assessed the damage and set up automated repair drones. The fields began to stabilize, the plants straightening under invisible support beams. One child approached a human engineer, holding a broken toy. The engineer knelt and examined it carefully, then handed it back repaired as if it had never been broken. The child's eyes widened. "They can fix anything," he whispered, and in a way it was true. Nothing the storm had damaged remained broken for long. Water purification systems, power cores, communication arrays, all repaired, all functioning better than before. Meanwhile, the council could no longer ignore the reports. A special meeting was called. Holograms of the human fleet filled the chamber, and every delegate watched in awe and fear. "Is this possible?" Councillor Thalen asked again, but no one answered. "Impossible, yes," admitted Archivist Laria, a historian from the ancient Soran species. "The first fleet was destroyed centuries ago. Human records say it vanished entirely, and yet do the readings confirm its presence. Their ships, their energy output. It is unlike anything in the galaxy today." A tense silence followed. Then Laria added, "It seems humans are not what we thought. They were underestimated, and now they may be unstoppable." Outside the council chambers, fear mingled with curiosity. Scholars and spies debated whether the fleet could be approached, studied, or even challenged. Some whispered of negotiations, others of preemptive strikes, but none dared act. Not yet. Back on Doran's Edge, Mira and her aide were escorted to the flagship of the human fleet, a massive vessel called the Resolute. Its bridge was dark and quiet, filled with humans who moved with silent efficiency. At the center stood Admiral Keon Vey. "Governor Talon," he said in his calm, even voice. "The immediate threats to your colony have been neutralized, but your world is not the only one in need. There are many others. We respond to those who cry for help," Mira frowned. "But why? Why help us? Why now?" Vey's gaze seemed to pierce through her. "Because it is right. Because we promised long ago that no human would ever ignore a call for aid. The galaxy forgets, but humans do not." The words carried weight, and Mira realized something profound. The fleet was more than technology. It was a symbol of humanity's resolve, a statement that humans acted not out of fear or ambition, but out of duty. She glanced out the viewport. Below, the colony hummed with life again. Families emerged from shelters. Children ran to see the strange, dark ships hovering above. The colonists cheered softly, but their eyes held a mixture of awe and uncertainty. "What do the aliens think?" Mira asked quietly. Vey did not answer immediately. Finally, he said, "Many watch. They fear us. Some will try to understand others. They will wait for the chance to test us. That is their way. You, however, are safe. For now." Far beyond the system, in the council's observation post, the alien captain stared at the displays. His claws drummed nervously on the console. "They are alive," he muttered. "These ships, they are not just machines. They move as one, but also as individuals. They anticipate, adapt, and respond instantly. No other fleet behaves this way." His second officer leaned closer. "Do you think they can be stopped?" The captain shook his head. No, not by anything we have. Not by any combination of fleets. They do not fight to conquer, but the power they hold. It is absolute. He tapped a button, sending a report to the council. The humans are back, and they are more than we imagined. Back on Doran's Edge, the colonists tried to understand the humans' ways. Every action was deliberate, precise, and efficient. No one gave orders out of pride or anger. Decisions were based on observation, knowledge, and centuries of experience. Governor Mira walked along the repaired streets, observing the drones and engineers. She saw a young human teaching a group of colonist children how to stabilize a small reactor core safely. The children laughed, copying the motions, learning in minutes what normally took years to teach. They are amazing, Mira whispered to herself, and they do not even realize it. Her aide nodded. And yet, the galaxy fears them, perhaps rightly so. At night, the fleet remained in orbit, silent and watchful. The stars reflected on their black hulls, giving the appearance of shadows drifting across the heavens. The colonists slept peacefully for the first time in weeks, unaware of the whispers spreading across the galaxy. Humans are back. Earth's deadliest fleet answers no one but itself. They are not here to conquer, but they could if they wished. And somewhere deep in the fleet, Admiral Vey stood on the bridge, gazing at the galaxy beyond. He did not speak of conquest or power. He only prepared because the galaxy would continue to cry for help, and humans, by their promise, would answer. The whispers of fear would grow louder. The council would watch, anxious and unsure, and the colonists of Doran's Edge would know for the first time that their lives were no longer alone, no longer abandoned. Above them, the black ships waited. Not for war, not for glory, but for duty. The calm that had settled over Doran's Edge was short-lived. Even as the human fleet repaired orbital systems and restored life to the colony, something stirred beyond the edges of known space. Sensors aboard the flagship Resolute began to register disturbances, gravitational ripples, energy fluctuations, and strange pulses of dark radiation. At first they were minor, easily ignored. Then the warnings intensified. Systems in the outer orbitals flickered. Small mining vessels in the asteroid belt reported being pulled off course. Even distant moons shifted slightly, unnaturally. Admiral Keon Vey studied the data on his bridge, his eyes narrowing. This is no ordinary storm, he said. It is not natural. The bridge crew exchanged glances. Could it be the Council's weapons? One officer asked. Vey shook his head. No, nothing we can detect. This is older, far older, and it is growing. On Doran's Edge, Mira Talon watched as human engineers set up monitoring stations. What is it? She asked, anxiety creeping into her voice. Vey turned to her, calm but serious. A cosmic storm of dark energy. If it reaches your orbit fully, it will tear apart everything. Your world, your colonies, all systems within 100 million kilometers. Mira's heart sank. And the Council. They won't help? They refuse, Vey said simply. They claim the danger is beyond intervention. But humans do not abandon those in need. That night, the sky above the colony turned strange. Dark clouds of energy swirling with eerie light appeared far beyond the horizon. The colony's telescopes recorded shapes moving inside the storm, shifting shadows that no one could identify. Panic began to ripple among the citizens. Vey's fleet, however, did not falter. Ships began forming a massive lattice of energy and magnetic fields around the colony's system. Smaller drones were dispatched into the storm itself, collecting data and stabilizing pockets of space. The aliens, observing from afar, whispered among themselves. Counselor Thalen had dispatched a secret reconnaissance team to watch the fleet. What they saw defied comprehension. These humans, one of the aliens said, voice trembling. They are not just reacting. They are predicting every movement of the storm. They know it before it happens, another added. Their fleet, it behaves almost like it is alive. The humans did not fire weapons. They did not issue threats. Instead, they used technology and ingenuity in ways the galaxy had long forgotten. Ships unfolded massive arrays, releasing beams of energy that stabilized gravitational anomalies. Fields of protective energy surrounded mining stations and orbital habitats. Every human ship moved with a precision and speed that made it seem as though the storm itself had no choice but to follow the humans' plan. Back on Doran's Edge, Mira moved among the colonists, helping where she could. Children clung to their parents. looking up nervously at the black shapes hovering above. She had never felt so small, so powerless, and yet the humans made her feel safe. One of the engineers, a young man with calm blue eyes, approached her. "Governor," he said, "we need to evacuate some of the outer habitats temporarily. The storm's trajectory is unpredictable. It will pass, but not without danger." Mira nodded. "Do what you must. The people will listen to you." The engineer smiled faintly. "They already do. Humans, we respond to those who need help even when danger is all around." The storm grew stronger. Shifts in space became violent, pulling at moons and scattering asteroid belts. Vessels not protected by human technology were crushed, pulled apart, or forced to flee. The colonists could feel the tremors even on the surface. Vey's fleet, however, remained calm. The admiral stood on the Resolute's bridge, observing every movement, every fluctuation. "We must stabilize the storm fully," he said. "Partial measures will not hold. Prepare the lattice arrays. Extend them beyond the outer orbitals. We cannot fail." Officers worked in silence. Commands were given and executed without hesitation. Every vessel knew its place, every drone its function. The storm pulsed, twisted, and struck. But the humans countered each wave, their energy fields absorbing, redirecting, and neutralizing the worst of the chaos. Meanwhile, the council watched in fear. Messages poured in from their spies. "The storm is contained, temporarily. The humans are moving into positions no one thought possible. They are saving colonies, habitats, and stations that were abandoned." Thalen shook his head. "Impossible," he whispered. "If they can stabilize one storm, what else can they do?" Archivist Lyria studied the readings. "They are applying knowledge no one else has. Technology, yes, but also ingenuity. They are thinking in ways we cannot predict." Fear spread. Rumors circulated of the humans' hidden capabilities, of their long-lost technologies, of fleets preserved for centuries. Some began to wonder if Earth's deadliest fleet had never really vanished. Perhaps they had been waiting, silent, watching and preparing for this very moment. On Doran's edge, the colonists experienced the storm's danger firsthand. The ground trembled as gravitational waves shook the planet. Power flickered. Water systems went offline briefly. But everywhere, human engineers worked tirelessly. Repair drones swooped through the air. Small vessels carried critical supplies to remote settlements. Protective fields enveloped cities, shielding them from destruction. Mira stood with the children in a safe shelter, watching through reinforced glass. The storm churned above them, but the humans remained calm. It was a sight unlike any other. Ships the size of cities moving like a single entity, reacting faster than anyone could follow, shielding and repairing simultaneously. A child tugged at Mira's sleeve. "Governor, will they be okay?" She smiled faintly, though her heart raced. "Yes," she said, "because humans are here." As the storm reached its peak, the human fleet revealed its most astonishing capability. Vey ordered massive arrays of energy to converge, forming a lattice that stretched across the system. The dark waves of the storm began to slow, twisting harmlessly along the edges of the lattice. Small fragments of debris that would have destroyed colonies were deflected, pulled safely into orbiting nets. For the first time, the colonists could see the storm being tamed, not with weapons or force, but with precision, coordination, and ingenuity. Vey watched from the bridge. "The storm will pass soon," he said quietly. "But we must remain vigilant." "Others will come?" "Others?" Mira asked. Vey did not answer directly. Instead, he turned to the viewport, watching the horizon. Somewhere in the galaxy, other colonies would be in danger, and the human fleet would answer. Always. The storm finally began to weaken. The lattice held. Gravitational waves subsided. Orbital stations stabilized. The colony of Doran's Edge could breathe again. The colonists poured into the streets, cheering. Families hugged. Children ran to see the human ships hovering above. Engineers waved, then returned to their work. Mira felt a deep sense of relief and awe. "These humans," she whispered to her aide. "They are unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen." Her aide nodded. "And yet, they use that power only to help." Beyond the system, the council scrambled to respond. Their fleets were powerless against the storm. They had assumed it could be contained by conventional forces, but the humans had shown a new kind of strength, one that combined technology, intelligence, and unyielding determination. Rumors spread quickly. "Humans are back. And they respond to distress calls alone. They are more than a fleet. They are a force of the galaxy itself. No one can predict what they will do next. Fear mingled with awe. Some envoys began to reconsider their positions, wondering if the humans could become allies. Others began plotting ways to limit their influence. But for now, none dared approach. On Doran's edge, Mira stood on a hill overlooking the repaired colony. The black ships floated silently above, casting shadows on the streets below. Children played among the repaired buildings. Families celebrated, and life had returned. Vey's voice came over the comm once more. The immediate danger has passed. We will remain until all systems are fully restored. Then we will move on. Others are waiting. Mira felt a mixture of gratitude and awe. Thank you, Admiral. You saved more than our lives. You saved our hope. Vey's image nodded. That is what humans do. Where others see despair, we see duty. Where others fail, we rise. The galaxy forgets easily, but humans do not. The colonists watched the fleet through the night. The stars reflected on the black hulls, giving the ships an almost sacred appearance. They were not just machines. They were a promise. A living, moving symbol that humanity could rise when needed, even after centuries of absence. Somewhere, far beyond, alien eyes continued to watch. Whispers of fear and awe spread through the galaxy. Humanity had passed its first test, not by defeating an enemy, but by standing against forces no one else dared face. The calm after the storm on Doran's edge lasted only a few days. While the human fleet continued to repair the colony and stabilize the orbital systems, word of their deeds spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Messages reached distant systems, star stations, and trading hubs. Humans had returned, and their fleet was not just present, it was unstoppable. In the Council of Worlds, fear had turned into urgent debate. Delegates pored over reports analyzing sensor data and witness testimonies. Are we certain this is the same human fleet? Counselor Thalen hissed, pacing in the chamber. His reptilian scales reflected the holographic lights of the human ships. The first fleet was destroyed centuries ago. There is no other explanation, yet the readings are irrefutable. Archivist Laria adjusted her glasses. They are real, yes, and they are acting in ways no species has ever dared. They answer calls for help, not demands for power. They restore worlds, stabilize disasters, and yet the galaxy watches in awe and fear. Humans, they are not ordinary. Ordinary? Thalen spat. They could dominate us all if they wanted. This fleet, it is absolute power, and they do not even fight. Imagine what happens if humans ever choose to act beyond mercy. Meanwhile, on Doran's edge, Mira Talon walked through the colony's streets, which had been fully repaired. Children ran and laughed in the open air. Fields had grown stronger, infrastructure repaired, and every building that had been damaged during the storm stood firm. It was a miracle, and the colonists knew it. Yet the humans were not content with mere repairs. Admiral Keon Vey had called Mira to the Resolute once more. The bridge was a cathedral of black steel and quiet efficiency. Humans moved with purpose, every action precise, every glance calculated. Governor, Vey began, the immediate danger to your world is over, but there are others. Signals indicate other colonies in peril, and your system's storm is only one of many that will challenge the frontier. We cannot act without planning. Mira studied him. What is your plan, Admiral? Vey's eyes scanned the horizon, dark against the void of space. We reveal our power to the galaxy quietly. Let the Council see us. Let them understand humans are not a species to ignore. Then we act not with weapons, but with solutions. The galaxy needs to see that humans can rise without conquest and still change everything. The Council, of course, had already noticed. Several envoys arrived near Doran's edge, disguised as traders or researchers, curious to witness the humans in action. They hovered at the edge of the system, hidden behind sensor clouds. Captain Fenar, the alien sent to observe, recorded everything. They are magnificent, he whispered. They repair entire stations with minimal effort. They coordinate in ways impossible to anticipate, and yet they never fire a shot. Thalen, watching the report, shook his head. They are a living force, not a fleet. Observe them closely, Fenar. Learn everything, but do not provoke them. Humans, however, had no fear. They worked openly, repairing outer stations, stabilizing asteroid belts, and reinforcing planetary defenses. At the same time, they allowed Council envoys to observe, sending a clear message. We do not hide our power. We only choose how to use it. On the Resolute's bridge, Vey explained his strategy to Mira. We will act where the galaxy cannot, but we will not seek glory. Every action will demonstrate what humans value most: duty, protection, and ingenuity. Mira nodded slowly. You are showing them yourself. The humans. Vey's expression was serious. Yes, we reveal not to boast but to remind the galaxy that power without morality is meaningless. The Council must see that humans are different. The first opportunity arose sooner than expected. A neighboring system, Krellin Prime, sent a distress call. Its star was unstable, threatening the lives of billions of inhabitants. No Council fleet dared approach. It was deemed too dangerous. Vey ordered the Resolute and accompanying ships to jump to the system. Mira and her aide were aboard, watching as the fleet entered fold space. When they arrived, the sight was horrifying. The star flickered violently, magnetic storms crackling across its surface. Entire orbital stations were on the verge of collapse. Mining colonies were abandoned and tens of millions faced certain death. The humans acted immediately. Ships formed an enormous energy lattice around the star, stabilizing magnetic and gravitational fields. Drones were dispatched to repair orbitals and redirect debris. Energy conduits extended into the star's corona, redirecting dangerous emissions harmlessly into space. The colonists of Krellin Prime, watching from below, could hardly believe their eyes. It's impossible, a scientist shouted. How can ships do this? How can they control a star? Vey's voice came over the comm to all colonies. We stabilize what is in danger. We do not conquer. We do not destroy. We answer when the galaxy cries for help. Alien observers gasped. The Council envoys reported back immediately. Fenar, recording every moment, whispered into his recorder. The humans control the storm. They stabilize the star. Entire colonies are saved without a single weapon fired. Their fleet reacts with perfect coordination, anticipating the star's behavior before it occurs. They are not just engineers or warriors. They are problem solvers on a scale we cannot comprehend. Thalen's scales darkened. If they can manipulate a star, what else can they do? Luria replied softly. They are not here to destroy. But their knowledge, their power, it surpasses anything the Council has seen in millennia. Meanwhile, Mira could see the effect on the galaxy. News spread quickly. Humans could stabilize disasters others could not even approach. Colonies that had been abandoned received help. Refugees were guided safely to orbitals. Energy shields protected entire planetary surfaces from storms and meteor showers. Yet there was no triumph in the humans' actions. They never celebrated. They never boasted. They acted because it was necessary. Every movement, every calculation, every deployment was quiet, efficient, and precise. Mira whispered to her aide, "This is what makes them terrifying. Not weapons, not conquest. Their morality is their power." Her aide nodded. And the galaxy? It fears what it does not understand. The Council could no longer ignore the humans. Delegates debated how to approach them. Some wanted to offer alliances, hoping to learn from their technology and methods. Others feared them, fearing the balance of power would be forever altered. Outside the Council, spies whispered rumors. Humans are back, and they are stronger than ever. Earth's deadliest fleet answers only to its own judgment. They do not conquer, but if they wished, they could rule the galaxy. Vey, however, paid no attention to the whispers. On the Resolute, he prepared for the next SOS, the next colony, the next crisis. For humans, power was not for display, it was for action. Duty came before pride, and the galaxy's fear was a byproduct, not a goal. On Krellin Prime, Mira watched as humans finished stabilizing the star. Orbital stations floated safely, colonies repaired, and millions of lives saved. The colonists cheered. Children waved at the black ships in orbit. Engineers and soldiers, amazed, took careful notes, hoping to understand the methods that had saved them. Vey's voice came over the comm once more. The immediate threat has passed. Systems are stable. Prepare for future challenges. We leave soon, but remember this. Humans respond when others fail. That is our way. Mira felt a sense of awe she had never known. They are not just a fleet. They are a force for good beyond imagination. The Council's reaction was a mix of fear, awe, and uncertainty. Envoys whispered, "If humans choose to act, nothing can stop them." Others asked, "Can we ally with them? Or are they beyond understanding?" Fenar, observing from a distance, recorded one final note. The humans reveal their power not through destruction, but through protection. The galaxy has never seen such a combination of strength and morality. They are unique. They are terrifying. And they are unstoppable, not because of weapons, but because of who they are. As the human fleet prepared to leave Krellin Prime, Mira looked out at the black ships. They were silent, imposing, and magnificent. The stars reflected on their hulls like dark mirrors. They were not conquerors. They were guardians. The stars above Doran's Edge were calm now. After weeks of repair, stabilization, and heroic effort, the colony stood stronger than ever. Families walked freely through the streets. Children laughed in fields once destroyed by the storm. The orbital stations glimmered, fully restored. Life had returned, but the memory of the storm lingered like a shadow. Governor Mira Talon stood at the highest hill overlooking the colony. Her eyes scanned the horizon, where the black shapes of the human fleet hovered silently in orbit. They were not moving to fight. They were watching, waiting, guarding. She turned to her aide, her voice soft but filled with awe. They came for us, and yet, they did more than save lives. They showed us what it means to rise above fear, to act without hesitation, to act because it is right. Her aide nodded. And the galaxy? It knows now. Humans are not ordinary. Far beyond Doran's Edge, whispers spread like wildfire. Messages from the rescued colonies traveled at faster than light speeds. Traders, diplomats, and observers reported the events in detail. Across the council, fear and respect warred for dominance. Councillor Thalen, pacing furiously, finally shouted, "The humans, they are more than anyone imagined. Their fleet alone could overthrow any council operation. And yet, they do not attack.
They only help."
Archivist Laria studied the record silently. That is what makes them dangerous, Thalen. Not weapons, not power. Their morality, their will to act. It is unmatched. The galaxy can neither predict nor control them. Envoys from other systems had begun traveling toward Doran's Edge, hoping to understand humans. Some sought guidance. Others came out of fear, wishing to ensure the humans would not turn against them. But Admiral Keon Vey did not meet them immediately. Humans would act when needed, not for politics. On the Resolute, Vey stood before a tactical display showing all the SOS signals still unaddressed. He spoke quietly to his officers. Doran's Edge was only the beginning. The galaxy is vast. There are colonies without food, stations failing, systems in danger. Where others hesitate, humans act. That is our duty. That is our promise. His officers nodded silently. Each understood. Their fleet's strength was not just technology, but discipline, morality, and the will to protect life. Vey turned to Mira, who had been observing. "Governor, humanity has long been underestimated, but the galaxy forgets easily. It is our responsibility to remind them, not with conquest, but with example." Mira smiled faintly. "And what about the Council? Will they ever understand?" Vey's gaze was calm yet piercing. Some may not. That is not our concern. We act where others cannot. That is enough." The next SOS arrived from a star system on the edge of the Perseus Arm. Its core was unstable, threatening thousands of colonies. No council fleet dared approach. Vey ordered the fleet to jump. Mira, aboard once again, felt a strange mix of awe and fear. When they arrived, the sight was even more dire than Doran's Edge. Entire colonies were on the brink of destruction. Massive storms of energy surged from the unstable stars. Populations were evacuating as quickly as possible, but chaos reigned. The human fleet responded with precision. Massive shields deployed around entire planetary systems. Drones repaired orbital stations and stabilized reactors. Engineers worked alongside colonists, instructing them calmly, quickly, without panic. Vey's strategy was simple, yet revolutionary. Humans stabilized systems rather than conquering them. They did not fight. They acted. And their actions were beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Colonists of the Perseus Arm stared in disbelief. They saved us," a young woman whispered. "No one else could have done this." Vey's voice echoed over the calm and steady. "We answer when the galaxy cries for help. That is our duty. That is humanity's promise." Back in the council, panic and awe reached new heights. Delegates realized that humans were no ordinary fleet. They could manipulate energy on a cosmic scale, stabilize collapsing systems, and yet they did not pursue conquest. "The humans," Thalen whispered. "They are not our allies. But they are not our enemies either. They are something else, something beyond comprehension. Archivist Lyria nodded. Their power is absolute, but their morality restrains them. That is their greatest weapon. The galaxy has never seen such a combination. Rumors of humans spread faster than fleets could travel. Traders, explorers, and refugees told tales of black ships appearing where needed, of engineers repairing entire colonies in hours, of energy lattices stabilizing dying stars. Some whispered, half in fear, half in awe, Earth's deadliest fleet answers only to duty. On Doran's edge, Mira watched the human fleet begin preparations to depart. The colony was restored, the system stable, and lives saved. She approached Vey on the Resolute's bridge. "Will you leave now?" she asked quietly. Vey's gaze rested on the horizon. "Yes, we will continue to respond where we are needed. But Doran's edge is safe. For now." Mira's voice trembled slightly. "And the galaxy? Will they ever understand humans?" Vey's expression was calm, almost serene. "The galaxy will watch, listen, and learn. But it may never truly understand. That is not necessary. We act because it is right. That is enough." The colonists gathered below to watch the fleet disappear into fold space. Children waved, families cheered, and Mira felt tears in her eyes. They had survived the storms not through their own strength, but through human ingenuity, discipline, and courage. The black ships vanished, leaving only the echo of their promise. When the galaxy cries for help, Earth will answer. Where others fail, humans rise. Strength is not measured by conquest, but by duty. And somewhere far away, the Council continued to debate. Some envoys feared humans. Others marveled. But all realized one truth. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy would never forget it. As the months passed, colonies across the frontier received aid. Systems once abandoned were restored. Refugees found safe passage. Engineers and scientists learned new methods from the humans, inspired by their efficiency and ingenuity. Mira received reports daily. Doran's Edge thrived. Schools reopened, trade resumed, and families prospered. Yet the colony's people never forgot the black shapes that had hovered above them, silent guardians waiting for the next SOS. Children asked if the fleet would ever return. Mira would smile. "Yes," she said softly. "They will answer whenever the galaxy cries for help." The legend of Earth's deadliest fleet grew. Across the stars, civilizations whispered, "Humans are not ordinary. They vanish, but they watch. They act when others cannot. And they are always faithful to their promise." Some feared humans. Some revered them. But all knew one thing. Earth had returned, and its fleets were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. On Doran's Edge, Mira stood at the top of the hill once more. The night sky was clear. Stars twinkled gently, as if acknowledging the presence of guardians unseen. She thought of Admiral Vey and his fleet, of the colonies saved, of the cosmic storms tamed, and of the galaxy slowly realizing the truth. Humans were not to be underestimated. "They are different," she whispered. "Stronger, wiser, and kinder than anything we imagined."